The Phantom Toll Booth, your gateway to music and more from a Christian perspective, presents press conferences from the only Christian music festival that really matters, the Cornerstone Festival 2012. Sit back, relax, and you will hear from some of the most fascinating, intriguing, and sometimes controversial musicians, authors, and organizations around. Tollbooth.org. Slow down and have your change ready.
All right. Thanks once again for joining us, ladies and gentlemen, at the Phantom Toll Booth Cornerstone 2012.
He'll get to you.
Press tent.
Okay.
Joining us this afternoon is Destroy Nate Allen with your host, Brett McAlpin.
Is Nate's mic good?
Am I muted? Hello.
Hello. Oh, there we go.
There he is. All
I'll
right.
mute the mic.
Welcome, guys.
Hello.
Uh-oh, there goes the clock. Thank you for coming by our the final Cornerstone press tent day. So with all the finality of Cornerstone in the air, what has this place meant to you guys?
I've been coming since 1997. I moved into Japuza in January of 97 and lived there for 3 years. So 97, 98, and 99, I was part of the festival in that way. And this is my 12th festival. So I say a lot, like most of my friends around the country, a lot of them I met here.
Yeah.
I think I'll miss the excuse to see lots of people. That's the thing I'll miss the most.
Yeah.
Definitely the relationships mean more than the shows. So
Yeah.
and that seems pretty universal. So
Yeah, it was really emotional. Coming. I think I've been so busy just like running around with the band that I like driving in, I started to cry.
I think
Yeah, and then we like went out to breakfast yesterday, and it was a quiet moment. I started to cry, but haven't really been reflective enough until now.
yeah. It feels like every time somebody mentions the last Cornerstone, just kind of start looking around and seeing tears, and then if I look at them, I start to cry. So I mean,
Yeah. Oh, were you gonna say
It's
something?
been a family reunion to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everybody can speak to that too. What kind of role did it play in the formation of what you guys do musically?
I don't think it really played a big factor because the band kind of developed, I'd say, outside of this environment. And so for the first couple years that we toured here, it was kind of just like any other show as far as size and perspective. I mean, first year we played like 7 shows, our campsite and all the generators. And I think the next year I played 1 song on the underground. And so we were still playing like bigger shows all around the country except for here.
Well, Nate was a solo artist.
Yeah.
And he was on a long tour, and I was actually trying to figure out my summer travel plans for 2007.
Yeah. Well,
and I was like, well, if I fly to my dad's, then, and we were just best friends at the time. That actually is an interesting story because I was.
I'll finish the other one.
Okay, sorry.
Which I don't
going
think.
into.
Yeah,
That's all right.
I think Cornerstone played a big part in our relationship, but not necessarily a big part in the band. Where I think the last couple years it's gotten really fun. We've been able to play, and I think my focus shifted. The first year we were becoming a couple. The second year we worked way too hard and played way too many shows, and just it was about trying to be popular, or at least trying to make gas money by playing shows. And then the next year I realized that was really stupid, and decided to just play 1 or 2 shows and hang out with people, and the festival experience was much better.
Yeah.
And but then as far as our relationship goes, Tessa can tell that story.
Yeah. Well, so I've been coming to Cornerstone a long time. I lived in Chicago. I lived in San Francisco. Now we live in Portland. But I was a single person in San Francisco, and there aren't a lot of Christian punk rock men there, and at least not, it's just not happening. And so I was turning 30, and I'm really ready to get married, and I kind of did that whole like, okay, God, this year you are gonna find me a husband at Cornerstone, because that's the only place I can find those people. And I really, laid it like, this is what you are going to do, God. And Nate was just my best friend. Been best friends for 3 years, traveling around the country. I was kind of like, okay, I'll fly to my dad's in North Carolina, and then I'll connect with you, and then we'll go to Cornerstone. And then on the way to Cornerstone, he told me he liked me, and that made a lot of sense. And so that 2007 at Cornerstone was really awkward because we were learning how to be a couple, and all of a sudden, all the people I want to see and run around, but then I also want to hang out with this guy, and I'd never had a boyfriend before, so that was stressful and intense. But he got to meet so many people from so many facets of my life.
It was pretty much our first public event as a couple.
Like a week-long date.
Yeah. A week-long date with all of your
friends.
Best and most awkward friends.
Yeah.
Or people that I didn't know. So
how romantic.
It was
really
awkward.
Hard. But then you got to meet everyone, and that was good.
Yeah.
And then it kind of is. It's kind of cool because now we're married, and he let me in the band, and we, represent being a couple to a lot of people, and our thing is relationships.
Yeah.
So I guess that's kind of fitting.
Yeah. So is that something that you guys are intentionally making your songs about, making your interaction with fans about, and that your growth as a Christian married couple?
Yeah, I think we try to be brutally honest with our band. My best friend Tyler, who's going to play the underground stage in like a half an hour, said that with our band, what you see is what you get. We're the same people on stage as we are off. So that means we
slightly less hyperactive, maybe, but
off stage. But we're just trying to be honest and live out. We write whatever songs come up, and we've spent a lot of time together, and we really try to put a focus on living out honestly. And so we sing love songs because we like to sing them. And
it kind of seems to me that, and I could be wrong, but in the underground stage circles, a musical act that consists of a genuine Christian married couple is rare.
Yeah. So
do you think that's kind of a part of what draws people to you, at least out of curiosity, whoa, a boy and a girl on stage?
Yeah.
Totally.
I must see this.
I think, as far as the punk or metal bands go, I think we're the only one here. And most shows we play, we're the only couple. And then, let alone the only couple actually singing about marriage, and
actually happy about it.
Yeah, being happy about it. It's.
And we spend 3 to 6 months on the road every year, and we still love each other, and we're still happy to be together.
That's excellent news.
It's been 5 years, since this is Cornerstone. We started kind of right before Cornerstone. 5 years since we've been a couple. Been married over 4 years now. So obviously it's not that long, but
I'm happy.
It's a big deal. And we're very, we try to do as much counseling with people, and we're really open to talking with anyone that is stuck in relational patterns or have questions about it, or just providing hope. And I didn't come from a good family, and I didn't know what a healthy marriage looked like. And living at Japuza helped with that a lot. But there's a very long process of growth and healing that made me a marriageable person. That if that hadn't happened, I don't know if we would have ended up married, and if we had, it would have been very unhealthy.
What are some of the most common questions when you interact with fans after a show, and what are some of the common relational thing? Is there one common relational thing they come to you with saying, hey, I really want to talk to you about this?
Well, I think we met with somebody a couple days ago, and he said we were the only happy couple he knew. And so kind of starting at that point, what foundational, values can you impart to me that will actually allow me to have a functional romance. And so, I mean, we really are super about clearing the air. We're like, learn to communicate, but learn to apologize and forgive. I mean, as far as, I mean, I have a song called Asshole that I play when I've been a jerk to start our set, and it's basically saying I'm a jerk and I'm sorry. And if I've been a jerk during the day, we can't play the show. And especially, our whole set's all about our relationship.
Yeah.
So we can't even play the show. There's been sets where like getting ready to play, and then we're not on the right page. We'll like look at each other, just walk out of the club, go resolve our issue, come back in 5 minutes later and say, well, you saw real life, and then I'll play my song. And, and I mean, so that's how we'll start any show. And I mean, just try to constantly have a process of asking for forgiveness and clearing that.
Well, and it's interesting because we don't generally play the Christian market, so we play a lot of like anarcho underground like scenes and stuff. Where like there was one year, one of the questions that people were asking us, like, oh, so you're married? Are you married under the state? And we were like, huh? What? And you know, it's such a activist community and such a anti-government, anti-authority that it's, you know, to them it's an act of rebellion to not get married, but then conversely, you know, fighting for gay marriage, and like there's just no sense of what a marriage actually is.
Yeah.
And so just our presence of being a happily married heterosexual couple is kind of a big deal, just to be there.
Yeah, it's of note if we never say anything, and I think it's like it makes a bigger statement than no matter what we say about, you know, any issue on stage.
Yeah.
So, and then we also have songs where we talk about, you know, differences in communication and all the kind of, I mean, the things that come up, and we don't take ourselves too seriously.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'll sing about me talking too much, or I'm sure there's a song coming where I have to talk about cutting Tessa off mid-sentence. Because I said I cut you off mid-sentence sometimes and I finish what you're saying, so we'll probably have to write about that.
Future hit single.
Yeah. But like we did a Kickstarter this year, and it was successful. So we made a new album, and also a 7-inch split with Blaster the Rocket Man, which was really exciting to us. And one of the songs on our new album is called Chick Flick, and it's like, you're so much better than the guy in the movies. You're so much better than the girl on the TV screen. Like, you're a real life person. And just kind of, you know, emphasizing that stuff. And we have another song called Booby Bar that is, you know, don't go down to the booby bar. If you want a real relationship, you won't get far. And so even though they're like funny, fun songs, they say a lot.
Yeah. So where did the stage dynamic that you guys have did that come intentionally?
No.
Like, what kind of what did that come out of? Because I've seen a little bit of one of your shows a couple of years ago. It's like pretty sure I've never seen anything quite like this.
Well, what happened?
Do you want to describe what that is first?
Yeah, I'll describe what it is, and I'll describe
for
how we
for
got
our
there.
listeners and audience.
Except
Future
for
listeners.
this tour that we've been on for 2 weeks, for the last, I don't know, 400 shows or so, we play in the middle of a circle on the ground with the audience, and our set is a series of sing-alongs and awkward, fun interactions to loosen people up until they're doing things that they wouldn't do, which is singing along to songs they've never heard, getting on their knees and moshing, crowd surfing, doing all sorts of stuff. You know, maybe there's 10 people in a living room and this is all happening. Maybe I'm stealing their hats or their glasses or their coats or their beers, and, you know, instead of like dumping their glass of water down their throat or something, just like, but goofy, like it's super fun. And the goal is to make people feel like they're important and valuable, and also like, so that's what we do. We've had a band on tour for about 2 weeks, so it's a little different, but we still are on the ground as much as we can. So that started in 2007. I started as a solo acoustic musician, quiet, stuck in my corner, singing pop songs, and it was like any other acoustic musician, nothing cool. Decent songs, but nothing of note. And 2 days before the tour, I got pneumonia, and I went on the tour anyway, and I got in my van for 6 months. I played like 15 Destroying Allen shows at that point. Nobody knew who I was. And the goal was I thought God said go on a tour, and success for 2.5 months was defined as not puking during 5 songs, period. And, had no money, nothing. And then I ran into a bunch of people who didn't use PAs, and it was like, you bring a PA in this house, you're insulting me. Which is like a world I didn't know, because I was used to throwing big rock shows, and everybody has a PA. Right. I mean, I remember a friend of ours in Phoenix, like, last guy that brought a PA in my house was a jerk. And I was like, well, I'm bringing the PA in. And so I was like, oh, my voice eventually grew accustomed to it, and I started getting healthier. It's like, oh, now I'm loud. And now I'm loud and I'm unplugged and there's 15 people here. Wait a second, I don't have to stay in the same spot. Oh, that's a totally different type of show. Wait a second, I don't have any money. What am I going to do? I've got 3 songs to make this crowd pay attention. Well, I'll climb on your table. Like, I'll do all sorts of stuff if I've got to get to the next town and it's about me putting in a genuine effort. And it's a perpetuating cycle. Yeah. To where, like, I'd tell Tessa, yeah, I played this show and the dishwasher came running out and jumped up on the counter mid-song, and she's thinking I'm totally...
He was telling me this on the phone, while I was back in San Francisco, and he's telling me his adventures of his first tour, and I was like, really? You're like that quiet acoustic guy. I can't believe they're really running out there to see you jump on something.
And so it just kind of started building, and then... so that's how I became a mobile acoustic musician. It was pretty much hunger. I mean, we didn't have any money, and I have to see, like, what's the best effort I can put forth to get people to pay attention. And I mean, because standing in a corner and playing a quiet song is not the most effective way you can get someone's attention if you've got 10 minutes to do it in a drunken bar. Maybe standing on something and screaming until you're like lose your voice is.
So learning how to be assertive.
Yeah, learning how to be super assertive. I broke like 4 guitars that year. I was throwing them across rock clubs. I don't do that anymore, but I don't need to.
That was before he was married.
I was using them as drums, smashing things. I mean, it was a pretty reckless show. And so then on that tour, I ran into a friend who basically was like, his wife wanted to play with him, and he wouldn't let her. And we were on tour for a week together, and she kept stealing instruments. And he finally realized, hey, I've got this crappy little band. Why can't my wife have fun with me? And so in the course of the week, he shifted, and as soon as we started like dating, I was like, well, you should, or like getting married, like you should join the band so you can eat. Like, it doesn't really matter how good you are, but it matters being together. Yeah. And so we just basically, I did a 6-month tour in 2007. In 2008, we got married, and 4 months later, we were on the road. And she likes to say the first year she learned to play tambourine, the second year she learned to sing. But it was about working out things together. I mean, and then it just we kind of feed off each other, so it's more intense and more theatrical. And
make things more fun.
Yeah, she totally writes fun songs. Every single Destroying Allen song that anyone thinks is fun is Tessa. I actually don't write any of the fun ones. I jump around a lot, but I probably get away with more silly stuff, but she writes the sillier songs.
So I know, speaking for myself, I've never been asked to do much else at a rock show besides clap my hands. So what are some of your favorite crowd participation moments that you guys have incited?
Making everybody cram into a bathroom to sing along together.
I think crowd surfing on top of them to like 8 people.
Yeah.
Like that sort of stuff. Like doing whatever it takes to make everybody at the show feel important. So if that means, making eye contact with 400 or 500 people in a room during our set and, physically interacting with as many as possible, then we'll do that. I mean, I think like one of the harder shows I've ever played was like last year at Underground. There was 2,000 or 3,000 people there. So we got this great slot, and I just couldn't see everybody. Yeah. And we're so used to like that. So we were, rigging a stage up so people could figure out how to see us. So we stood on a bunch of trash cans, and that was our solution. But it's really just, about making people feel valued now. And now it's kind of the intensity just kind of comes as soon as we play, because it's like, what do we have to do to get this audience? Well, first chord's loud and the whole set is.
We also both took improv theater classes this year
Okay.
to help
That-
with our show.
So what's that brought to the mix?
It's really been fun because I'd run out of rock and roll ideas, crowd surfing, stage diving, power slides,
Right.
silly
There's only
things.
so much.
There's only like 10 things you can do. I mean, you watch any band, that's doing their rock and roll thing. There's only like 10 things they're doing. I saw 4 Wall of Deaths at the underground stage. I mean, it's awesome, but I saw 4 of them.
Yeah.
And so, like, I was like, Tessa took an improv class, and I'm like, this is a lot of what we're doing. And so I took a class with the intention of trying to figure out how can we get new ideas? Because there's got to be new ideas out there. And so, I mean, one of the things is we did a relay race, and I thought, oh, this is my cool new idea. And then Flatfoot did the same thing. It was like, wow, this is really hilarious. Like, we didn't communicate. There was 2 ideas that I turned down in my head because I thought they might be close to their ideas. I didn't know they'd do a relay race. So, like, it was just like, so with improv, what that brings is, like, I'm listening to the audience. Like, what do they say? Like, they were like, we were at a show, and they kept saying, touch the roof. So what I did is I climbed up on a counter and then said, okay, my goal is to see how high I can touch on this roof, which is kind of similar to this one.
Yeah.
What that ended up being is I got flipped upside down, and my feet walked up the ceiling till I was about 5 or 6 feet above the crowd, extended
Upside
to the
down.
point where I was really scared, and that's how that part of the song ended. And so, like, listening to what they say, and I mean, that might mean like we were at a show in Denver and everybody growled the end of a song because it just seemed to be what they were saying.
Or meow.
Yeah,
That was
we
one
meowed
thing
a
somebody
song
was
on this
doing.
tour.
In theater terms, it's called taking an offer. You're paying attention to what someone else is doing
so
and then like going with it.
We meowed the end of our song White Flag as I crowd surfed across the kitchen to steal a sign off the wall and back to the counter. I mean, it was fun. I mean, there's 20 people there. It was fun. I mean, I think with the nature of how we play, it changes things up in a way that keeps it fresh. Because I never know what's going to happen. She never knows how a show will end. I never know how it's going to end. And we never know what's going to happen from point A to point B. But we know there's going to be some sort of personal interaction. And that's what we thrive off of. So.
Has there been anything you've tried in a show once and thought, oh, maybe not do that again?
I try and fail all the time. I mean, there's so many things I did at Underground that I failed at. I mean, and it's like, I'm all about, I try to do something new every single night. So that means like,
I never know how the show is actually going to end.
Like that-
I'm waiting with the audience to find out.
that might mean I'm going to take somebody's watch, Or like we played a church show years ago and it was a horrible show a couple days before Christmas, so I stole a bunch of car keys and people couldn't leave. But they didn't know it, like I'm getting away with it because I'm singing in their face and stealing their keys. And, it's like something new. It made the show memorable for me. I mean, I think it's just like being goofy.
Possibly for them too.
Yeah. And I mean, it all works out because it's not really malicious. It's like,
Well, and part of it is like, that guy might not realize his keys are taken, but all the rest of the audience is seeing it and laughing. And so
that's how the circle works really well, is because that personal interaction kind of like multiplies.
Yeah.
so we always ask for all the lights to be on when we play,
So yeah.
so people can see each other.
And so which definitely takes away the glamorous false realities of rock and roll. If there's 20 people in the club, everybody knows it.
Right.
And if you turn the lights down, you can make it look like it's a big rock show.
Right.
But we kind of flip that on its head and make it feel, this is a personal experience. This is what we really are.
And celebrate it.
Yeah. I mean, if there's 5 people there, we'll still play our hearts out like there's 500. It doesn't matter.
If anyone would like to ask the members of Destroy Nate Allen a question, I think everybody in the room here knows the drill. Oh, we have a race.
Right there.
Have you ever asked somebody in the crowd to do something that they just absolutely flat out refuse to do?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Not that often.
We try to pay attention and not do things to the people that we think are going to get angry. We played a house show in Texas, and there was a really, really big angry guy, and we pushed his button just enough to know that we better not do it again.
I tried to unbutton his shirt. He wasn't happy. He smacked my hand pretty hard, and it was that, like, if you touch me again, I'm going to punch you in the face.
Yeah.
you know.
And you know, I mean, we are really an invasive band. So, you know, I'm really into like lay ministry, like counseling and like deep inner healing stuff where you're like, is it okay if I put my hand on your shoulder? We like throw all that out the window for our show, and it's the exact opposite where like I'll grab you and scream in your face. But being someone who's gone to shows, like, you know, when I was, you know, even now still, but even like when I was a kid, I would go home and be like, oh my gosh, this is the coolest show ever. This thing happened.
Like somebody twittered out that I stole their glasses at the kids' tent.
Yeah. So
like I traded glasses with them.
Trying to make lots of memories, but there are definitely, you know, a lot of times people leave the room if they can tell by the first song they can't handle it and they leave, and that's okay.
A couple years ago, we got better at making people leave, and so I think those interactions got like we just.
Sometimes people actually run out of the room.
Yeah, Danielson had a comment years ago that people either love them or hate them. Either way, they don't allow indifference, and I think that the same thing was with our band. Like from the first note, you see us. We're going to be in the ground, jumping, screaming, like playing our hearts out. And if that's not your thing, you'll probably leave. And if you stick around, we'll figure out how far we can play with you. Like, and it's not it's like a goofy thing, but I mean,
there's definitely a line between the people who just need to be drawn out a little and the people who are like, I can't handle any more human interaction. Don't mess with me.
Yeah, and I mean, so we really like one of the things I learned in my first tour, which is really like judging space boundaries. Like, to somebody, this might be, like, the most intense thing that they can deal with. And if I take us 6 inches further, that might be the memory they need, or that might be what pushes them. And so really learning to judge, like if you watch us really closely, like, constantly reading eye contact and body movement, like, what is someone doing? Like, what can I get away with that will draw them out, but what also is too much? And so, like, there'll be like 5 or 6 people a show that will end up with more personal interactions than the others, and it's really like, okay, what can I like? What idea do I have? What is God doing, or what is the like random idea that happens? And then who's that person that's saying this is not a good idea, and trying to not push them too far, and really respect like what vibe they're putting out, which is oftentimes very nonverbal. So.
And I was also just gonna say, like, I mean, obviously we would love to become rock stars and play huge crowds. And, you know, it's been awesome to play really big crowds at Cornerstone and kind of figure out how that works. But there's been times where it's a really tiny crowd because that's what God wanted. Because it was those 8 people or those 10 people or whatever that, like, you know, you have more personal interaction. It's more intimate. Yeah. We don't want to be like stuck where we have to be in such a tiny room. And I think people have, before we started using wireless gear and things like that, people kind of like, oh, they're a band that plays small shows. But we kind of can do a little bit of both now that we've learned from Cornerstone. But last year, you know, lest our egos get too big after playing a huge show right before Flatfoot, our next show only had 13 people. And we're like, oh yeah.
Our next month had about 13 people.
Back to earth.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've been learning is, like, as a Christian right now in my life, my calling is not to be popular, it's to be obedient, which is meaning that on this tour in particular, I've been adding bands that I know aren't going to draw to shows because I think they're the bands that are supposed to play. And that will
because it's gonna make that kid feel really special to get to open for us,
or just I mean, or this band's that, like, we had a couple shows that switched 3 or 4 times, like the venue the week of the show, and you know, some bands would cancel that because it's gonna be a crappy night, and then we show up and all of a sudden there's a chance to pray for somebody that we would not have met had the venue not switched 3 times, and so, like, my job is to be obedient, and that is a totally different call than trying to be popular and book the popular bands. And
So why must Nate Allen be destroyed?
That's a fun story. I was a solo musician for a year or 2 as Nate Allen.
Boring, acoustic, quiet solo musician.
I sounded like Johnny Cash in Social Distortion. Had a kid that didn't
so
know how to
bad.
play music. I mean, it was not good. It was okay, but it wasn't like good. And I did a couple tours, played Tom Fest and a few other small spaces. and played a laundromat in San Francisco all the time. And
That I worked at.
so like, then I started dealing with like really intense fear, bitterness, anger, just all sorts of stuff started seeping up, and dealing with depression for the first time in my life. And I kind of felt like, man, these demons and these issues I'm dealing with are really getting intense, and they're gonna take me down unless I figure out how to beat them. And what God challenged me to was to quit music. And it was something that I was doing for survival and doing for fun. I didn't have much other fun, didn't have very many friends, so playing music was a huge deal. And it was also an identity thing, so I laid it down and not knowing if I'd ever play again. I remember meeting the Salters for the first time, and I didn't feel like I was supposed to identify as a musician, so I didn't know what to say. And it was really awkward. And I still probably don't have the friendship with those guys that I would have if I would have said, hey, I'm a musician, I'm playing the show with you. As a result. I mean, they're cool. They're awesome people. But so going through that process, I didn't know if I'd play. And for her, Tessa...
It made me respect him a lot to know that he's the kind of guy that would listen to the Lord at that level.
So it was a really intense sacrifice. And over the course of that year, I started working through these fear and these bitterness issues. And I mean, started just reading a lot of books. And I didn't think I'd play music. And then I started, songs started seeping out again. And they were different. Just a different vein of, this time it was kind of indie folk, but it was catchy. Like I played a song, like I had like 5 touring bands came through and asked me for shows. And God's like, no. You should play this church show. And I was like, okay, that's okay. I can do that. So I played the show, and the whole crowd sang along, and I messed up the song because I couldn't,
You were so surprised.
They didn't sing along before. They sang along now. And so as that whole process was ending, it was like, okay, I've got this record now. And it was going to be a Nate Allen record, and thank you. But NateAllen.com was taken. Somebody owns it. And so I thought up Destroy Nate Allen because I've never had a cool acronym for my name. And so it was like, I can buy this website and for $9 and I can make fun of myself and maybe somebody will care about Nate Allen, the musician. And so I told that to Tessa and she's like, is that going to be your new band name? And I was like, I hadn't even thought about it. Like, let me go pray about it. So I walked out in this park in San Francisco, prayed for about 5 minutes, and God said yes. And it took me a few months later to change it. But at that point, it was just like, I was just the quiet, destroying Allen. But it was kind of this, like, I'd say it was my excuse to play hardcore shows. And so that was really just the way the name came around. It really marked a season of change. And now it feels really appropriate when we do all sorts of silly stuff.
Hi, Tessa, Nate.
Hey there.
Hello, Tessa. I remember bumping into you on the streets of Chicago, and you've been in movies. I know all about you. Ha ha. And you guys look fabulous. And I happen to know you're living in an area where your look won't turn heads.
Yeah.
That being
I'm a tax consultant, and I get to keep my pink dreads at my job.
Could you tell us a little bit about your experience with? You're in Portland,
Yeah.
right? And that's a pretty unique area. We've discovered a little of it through Reed College and Blue Like Jazz, which you must see if you have not.
We did. We saw it on opening weekend. And I would say that all those things that, Portland is like this is true. Tell about our CD release show.
Did you have more?
Well, I just was
Oh, sorry.
wondering how you're connecting with the faith community there and finding your place in that scene of incredibly unique people and DIYers.
Yeah, we so Blue Like Jazz and Portlandia are the two kind of like cultural touch points you can find right now for Portland, and they're both pretty true. About 90% of those shows is real life, so it's just kind of a silly place, particularly with like the white kind of younger set. So within Portland, we go to a Covenant church. We're the only people with colored hair there, and it's a multi-ethnic church, so it's kind of working through its things. I was the secretary until I took off on tour, so I'd go do church projects at 3 a.m. after punk shows, and walk down the street from drunk punk houses to print bulletins. I mean, and in Portland, I mean, we don't really market our band as a Christian band. I don't really feel that's our call, and so we don't really play that scene. And so in Portland, we play house shows and bar shows with whoever invites us to, if it feels like the right show. And the scenes, people get into it. I don't think we have the popularity that we would if we lacked our faith. I think we'd actually be quite a bit more popular in Portland because it's a really big sticking point. It's a really huge deal. So actually, our release show, I accidentally double booked the Naked Bike Ride in Portland.
Well, we didn't know that it was happening.
Yeah.
And that was the weekend that we booked our show.
There was no...
We got like a great write-up in the weekly with our picture and everything, and we thought like tons of people were going to come to our show.
And the only people that came were the people that didn't care about the bike ride, which meant like 60, like,
80% of it was
ex-Cornerstone people.
Yeah.
And so it was really cool to see,
all
like,
clothes.
It was like strangely, like looking around the room, like it was like so many people were absent from our CD release show that we thought would be there. And we realized it was all our Christian friends that were there.
Which was really great for us to know that we had a tangible community, which is, I think, so much more important than popularity. And I think within the context of our band, like,
But I wanted to finish what we're saying.
Go for it.
So 15,000 people riding naked through Portland took away our draw. Pretty much.
And so it's like, oh, we've got people that are like, everybody that came to the show is like, yeah, I had to wait 30 minutes to get through the bike ride. And everybody else wasn't willing to wait 30 minutes or was sending out all their Facebook stuff about the bike ride. These are people that are like putting out our albums.
2 of my classmates rode in it, so
like,
nobody from my school came.
It's pretty funny. So, I mean, we kind of fit as an odd group in Portland. There's not really any sort of like spiritual music scene there. I think there was, and we're friends with those guys, but I mean, they tell us stories, and we're like, we don't like the people that even came to our CD release show is really surprising because we actually met most of those guys playing like odd little church venues outside of Portland. They don't actually come to our Portland shows.
Oh, the guys from Crux and the clergy were at our show. They're our friends.
Okay. So they came and supported us, but like, I mean, in Portland, we just play to whoever comes to our like bar shows or club house shows. So.
Well, I want to thank you guys so much for coming by and chatting with us. It's been a pleasure. Are you performing today later? Or
we played last night.
You played last night.
But we're going to be on tour pretty much until Christmas.
Tell us a little bit about what the future might hold in the next few months.
We are on tour till I'd like to be home by December 19th. So we'll probably do roughly 100, 150 dates on this tour. I'm working on trying to give us more days off. I'm not good at it.
I'm working on getting us more days off.
So that's some bands, they want to stay on the road more. We've done 700 shows in 5 years. And our goal is I want to be on tour till Christmas because I want to get to visit all my friends and, have a day off in Minneapolis or a day off in Chicago, which, I mean, we need like 3 days off in Chicago to see our friends if we hope to do it, which means you need a week there. And it's like, oh, how do I work that into a short tour? I can't really do it. We've been to 48 states. We've gone to Canada once.
If anyone wants to take us to Hawaii, that'd be cool.
So my goal is to get to all 50 states with this band if we can pull it off. We've done 7 records. Our new record we're really excited about. So
if anyone wants us to come to their town, now would be the time to get us to book that because it's not, most of our tour for the next year is not booked yet.
So God's been challenging me to be really flexible on my booking, which means taking more time to actually just kind of be and not workaholic like I tend to be. So our tour is not as booked as it would be. But yeah, we'll be on tour till Christmas. We'll be supporting our new record. We probably will play a few more full band shows, but it's mostly just the 2 of us. And then in 2013, as far as I can tell, we're going to try to take a break. We don't really know what that means, but we've lived in community houses the last 3 years, and we've spent half that time on tour, so we're tired. And I also just finished school. I got my bachelor's in business in the middle of all our touring. So I took at least 20 to 30 credits for the last 16 months when I wasn't on the road. And so it was a really intense process. So we're looking forward to like touring out the year, seeing all our friends, and then kind of just chilling for a bit.
Excellent. Thank you guys so much. Destroy Nate Allen, everybody. Give it up.
Thanks.
Thanks so much for joining us at the Phantom Toll Booth Cornerstone 2012 Press Tent. We appreciate it.
Thanks for stopping by the Phantom Toll Booth on YouTube. Before you go, make sure you visit our website and browse around our album, movie, concert, and book reviews, the latest music news, and our extensive archives dating back 16 years. Bookmark our site, check out our videos and news feed. Make room for that shadowy structure on your journey ahead. Tollbooth.org, slow down, and have your change ready.